Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. My name is Mandy.
And I'm Chad.
If you are new here, if not, I usually have Chad on for fragrance videos, but this is something completely different. In fact, it isn't technically beauty related at all. However, I know it's something that...
It is inner beauty.
Okay.
Beauty. Inner beauty.
Inner beauty.
Yeah.
This is how it's going to be, okay, if you are new. I know a lot of us are going through the same thing. I've seen quite a few videos on this, and that is struggles of perimenopause. Specifically for this video, weight struggles. So I'm going to go ahead and preface by saying, A, I am not a doctor. B, I am not recommending that you do what I do. I am simply sharing my story. And the reason Chad is here is because he has been A, incredibly supportive through this whole thing, and B, he's a fixer. I think a lot of men are, but he's like really a fixer. So if something is plaguing me and I can't figure something out, he will not sleep until he figures it out. So he has been a huge part in me figuring all of this out. So I wanted him to be on the video with
Well,
me.
my degree is in biochemistry.
Yes.
As well.
And he is very skilled in nutrition and has a long history with that. So let's go ahead and jump in. Where shall we start? Let's start with my initial kind of symptoms of perimenopause. Started about, I would say, a little over a year ago. I'm 44. And other than, the symptoms you always hear about, I don't necessarily have hot flashes. I have my face turns to fire. The rest of me is okay, but it's my face. I was having some trouble sleeping, maybe had a couple mood swings. Just maybe.
Yeah, you were a walking mood swing.
And the weight gain, y'all, the weight gain. My history with weight is very up and down. I lost 50 pounds in high school. My doctor told my mom this is not baby fat, and if she doesn't lose it, she will be considered obese by the time she graduates. Luckily, I have the willpower. How would you describe it?
What's the most ferocious animal? I'll say of a wild tiger that when it sees its prey, it's going to do whatever it can,
pretty much,
to get it, and there's nothing holding it back.
Yeah.
Which is
so I have a very strong willpower, and that has helped me on this journey. If I have a goal, I will do whatever it takes to get there, and I won't stop until I get there. And nothing's going to deter me. I have been pretty steady. I've been lifting heavy weights for about 20 plus years now. I've been pretty steady in the weight other than, having babies and the normal monthly fluctuations that happen. About a year ago, I started gaining weight having changed nothing. Absolutely nothing. And it wasn't like a pound. It was 15 pounds almost overnight. And I had not changed anything with my diet. I had not changed anything with my exercise. And let's be real, if you are going through perimenopause, you know that you don't feel like yourself at all. So when you, on top of that, start gaining weight, it's really hard mentally. Especially if you're someone who has struggled with it their whole life. Now, I did try, I'm gonna go ahead and say, I tried HRT for 6 weeks. How long ago? 4 months ago, 5 months, around that time. I absolutely hated it. And I'm not saying that I'm not going to get back on it eventually, but it was not right for me then. I felt worse. And I know people say you have to give it time, but I did not want to give it time because that's how bad I felt. So
we'll get into why there are some women and a lot of women during perimenopause.
Well, and real quick, it's just because our numbers are fluctuating every single day.
Yeah, so with estrogen, primarily estradiol, when you're in perimenopause, your spikes that may be here, typically in peri, are going to be way up here. When your lows are here, they're way down here. And so if you take an HRT, let's say certain days you're low in estradiol, well, it might be fine that you're on it, but the days you're high, it's so high, it's just kicking everything out of whack, and that's where you get the water retention, the moves, and everything else. You can't sleep. So when you're in menopause,
it's easier because you literally have no estrogen.
Yeah, you're flatline. All you got to do is just correct it all, find out where it needs to be. It's way easier.
Now, I'm not saying that HRT does not work for some women in peri because I know it does. It just didn't at this stage for me work. So I got off of that And I was determined to find something to work for me, specifically in the weight category. I will say that HRT, being on it, did help my heart palpitations a lot. And they've only come back maybe 1 or 2 days since then. So I'm thankful for that part at the very least. So I started doing some research, started watching some videos, started thinking back onto when I felt the best. Because mind you, my weight when I started this journey was the same as the day I gave birth to my first child. So that is the difference. I'm 25 to 30 pounds heavier than I was then or before I was pregnant. I was thinking back, okay, because I have kept track of what I eat a lot. It's just something I do. It is not a disorder. It is not a compulsion. I've just always done it because I do realize that being able to look back at notes helps to determine how I felt at this time, how my body felt at this time, what was I eating at this time. I don't have the memory of an elephant, so if I don't write it down, I'm not going to know. So I started going back and looking at some of the journals that I had kept and realized I really felt better when I wasn't eating a high amount of carbs.
Can I segue?
Of course you can.
And just so you guys know, I owned a fitness center just south of Nashville for a number of years. I've traveled with a number of artists, music artists, and what have you, getting them ready for video shoots. I worked with fitness competitors, female, male, and to say all of that, what works for one person does not always work for another. Another thing, I always hear calories in, calories out, okay? I know everyone says it's all about calories in, calories out. It's not. Some of you are going to fight with me on this. I have probably over 5,000 clients I've worked with and a lot of data that I've used. And I can tell you, because when you're burning calories, a majority of those calories sometimes can come from carbohydrates and not fat, or vice versa. So all that being said, there are other things besides calories because it's how your body sometimes responds to things like sugar, glycogen, glucose. Because if you have if it's insulin resistant, it's not gonna work for someone who's not insulin resistant, eating more carbs, and it's working fantastic for them. And so I just want to let you guys know that this is what we found out with her.
I feel like we're going to go, I wrote an outline for this video, but I feel like we're going to go all over the place because we think of things. I will say I started off getting a DEXA scan. There are a lot of people who say it's absolutely necessary to know what your body fat is, what your visceral fat is, what your bone density is. And there's a lot of people that say DEXA scans are not accurate and that they're only accurate for bone density. Luckily, my bone density is great and I have very little to no visceral fat. So I was very happy with that. I was not happy with my body fat. I'm not going to talk about numbers because I don't want people to get stuck on numbers because I am different from everybody else. But I was not happy with where my body fat was. I wanted to get it down, obviously. I also took an RMR breathing test, which is a resting metabolic rate breath test, where you breathe into a tube for 20 minutes and it pops out what your metabolic rate is to survive, meaning the amount of calories you need just to keep your organs functioning. This does not include the calories you burn going to the grocery store during the day or exercising or anything like that. It is if I sat on a couch for 24 hours, how many calories would I need to function properly? So I got those two done and I realized that the amount of calories I was eating before I gained all this weight was the same amount of calories that the RMR said that I should be eating when I factored in exercise and daily living. So I knew it wasn't my calorie intake, right? Because I had been eating that and I was still gaining weight. So I thought, well, what else can I change? Lots of research to state that a lot of people in perimenopause and menopause start having insulin resistance. So I thought, let's just try that. I've always felt like my body felt better when my carbs were lower. And trust me when I tell you, I have literally tried it all.
Yes.
He will tell you. I've tried high calorie, low fat, high protein, low protein, high carbs, low carbs. I have tried it all and I have given each of those multiple weeks and months to see if they would work.
And can I do an exclamation point?
Yeah.
Because remember, she said she is now doing the same amount of calories as what she was when she was gaining all the weight. So for all of you out there who say calories in and calories out, remember that.
Yeah. He's really passionate about that part. I thought the only thing I need to try again is to lower my carbs. But remember, I said I have tried that before. I've tried a consistent low carb diet. It wasn't necessarily keto. I didn't go into ketosis. I wasn't going below like 25 carbs a day. But I've tried lower carbs than higher carbs, and I didn't see much of a difference. So I thought, well, let's see if I can average it out. And I started watching these videos about carnivore diets. Now, for me, and I'm not saying anybody else, because I know a lot of people have been super successful on carnivore for an extended period of time. For me, I knew that this was not going to be a sustainable diet for me. Okay, I knew that it was not something that I could nor wanted to do for the rest of my life at this point. That may change in the future. But I also knew that I could try it a few days a week just to see. So that's what I did. The days I lift 3 days a week. So the days before I lifted, because I wanted to make sure I had carbs on my lifting day, I started doing carnivore. And while I felt amazing, while my stomach issues were non-existent, I had no bloating, I felt like I had more energy, I felt good overall. The prep was insanely easy. I mean, you don't have much to choose from. So, you just eat meat, eggs, and occasionally I threw some cheese in. I was not sleeping. That was the main thing that I was like, I can't do this. I feel great, but I am not going to feel great for long if I don't start getting consistent sleep. So then we started doing more research on that and realized, and I'm going to let you explain why, good sleep for many requires some kind of insulin. Take it away.
All right, so here's the reason for that. So what they realized is that on a, let's say, ketogenic diet, that without that glucose in your system, a lot of times around, a few hours into sleep, your body can extenuate or increase the amount of cortisol in the system and also adrenaline. And what that can do, that can cause the waking to where you wake up. Basically, you're so low in sugar, your body's like, whoa, what's going on? And then you've got this lack of sugar, well, you've got the lack of sugar or glucose, but a lot of people will say, well, your body can utilize ketones and what have you. They do say some people that are on this diet for a long period of time can get adjusted, but there's still a lot that don't. So we started looking into things and realized that just incorporating a little bit of carbohydrates at night can help to offset that, which it did.
Right.
And so, yeah.
So, and that's another thing. Yes, people have definitely said, just give it like 3 months, let your body adjust. This was another thing I was not willing to give 3 months because I have always been someone who gets a good amount of sleep. I rarely ever get between or below 7 hours, and most of the time I get 8, if not a little bit more if I'm lucky and can get in bed in time. And I require that sleep. So I was not, what's the word?
Willing
to give it 3 months. Okay. So I was like, oh, I don't know. I don't know if I want to incorporate, any more carbs because I feel so good otherwise, but I did. So this is what I do now. 3 days a week, eat carnivore 75% of the day. So I eat 4 meals on those days. 3 of those meals are straight carnivore. Nothing but meat, eggs, or sometimes cheese. Right before bed, I will have some cottage cheese, which is quite literally my favorite food on planet Earth. And I will mix I make this like homemade raspberry jelly with chia seeds. I'll mix a little bit of that in it and then a couple of blueberries. And I'll top it with some cacao nibs and almonds.
How many carbs would you say?
It ends up being about, after you take out the fiber, which I do, some people don't, I do, it ends up being about 13 carbs.
Okay. Now, how much fat do you think you take in on those?
Over 100 grams.
Yeah. So, because I want to say this, one thing that just eats me up right now is everybody's talking about protein. I'm a big fan of protein.
Yeah.
But they don't talk about the other macros, fat being one of those, carbohydrates being one of those. And so if someone just says eat all this protein, but they never tell you how much fat or how many carbs to have, well, there's a good chance you're not going to eat enough of those, or you're going to overeat those.
Way too much.
So with her plan right now, she's on probably around 40% protein or so, and on those days around 50 or 55% fat.
Yes,
maybe.
I keep the protein consistent every day.
I say that. You're fat. You're pretty similar because you take roughly about the same amount of calories of protein as you do fat. roughly.
Yeah.
So
roughly.
so let's just say she's 45 and 45% protein and fat calories, and she's around 5% maybe carbs on those days.
And just doing that minor change and adding those 13 carbs as my last meal, I started sleeping like a baby again. So I was not willing to give that up because I'm like, I want to see if I can get the best of both worlds. And that's what I have consistently been doing for about 11 weeks now. And I have lost 10 pounds. And that really is the only thing I've changed. Now, I am going to do a separate maybe exercise video. I really haven't changed a ton with that, so I don't even know if it really warrants its own video.
Yeah, well, there's a couple minor changes.
Minor changes.
And I can explain some of those when we get into that, why I think those work. So.
And, that's helped, but I feel like the main difference is giving my body a break from insulin. I know that not doing carnivore consistently, because someone's probably going to say this, you're not going to see the benefits because you need to get into ketosis and you need to, do all that kind of stuff. The benefit that I've had from just giving my body a break for 72 hours of the week from insulin has been huge. I rarely have any kind of stomach aches. It's very easy to think about what I'm eating. I don't feel I've lost much strength in, the gym as far as lifting. I feel more like myself. And I also will say that a lot of my symptoms, not all of them, okay, still get moody every once in a while, still have very irregular periods, but a lot of my other symptoms in perimenopause have drastically gotten better too. And I'm not saying that's because of how I'm eating, but really that's the only thing I've changed. So what
can I say? Because I don't know if we've talked about the days you train.
Yeah.
But your
I do have to have carbs.
Yeah, your carbohydrates fall 90 to 120 grams per day?
I usually, on the days I train, I have about 120 grams, which is still low.
And that's divided out, by all 4 meals?
I eat 5 meals on those days.
5 meals, okay.
So, yeah. And that's divided out. But I do have the majority of them before and after I train.
Yeah, so that's one thing I typically recommend is when you train, your body is burning through glucose extremely fast, very quickly. And so if you can feed it those carbohydrates, the majority of those are that, a good amount before and after, your body's going to eat right through it to where after that point they're kind of low again. And your protein, even then, wouldn't you say we probably get approximately about 1 gram of protein per pound of body weight?
Yeah. Well, now a little bit more.
Yeah.
Now that I've lost.
And that can change too. Yeah. Because let's say someone who has a lot more body weight, let's say, to lose. So they may not want to, they may not need all that protein, but it's more about your lean mass protein, which is around 1 gram per pound of lean mass. And some might do a little more. And the only reason sometimes I say more is because if I need to get someone's calories, because you don't want to start ever too low in calories. If Mandy was a client of mine and she came to me and let's say
which I basically am.
Yeah.
Let's be real.
Well, let's say she had 50 pounds to lose. The way I would calculate her macros would be different, but also, I'm not going to put her on, let's just say 1,600 calories. I probably would actually start her around 18 or 19. And we would go from there, because if you start too low,
you don't have much room to work.
You don't have any wiggle room. So you want to be able to, what we like to do, for every 5 pounds a client loses, I'll drop the calories about 50 more calories only if she or he quits losing. If they keep losing, there's no need to change that. And remember this, because I want to say this. Okay, there are certain weeks where she's like, "What in the world? I'm up 3 pounds today."
That's just
I'm
hormones.
Then 2 days later, she's at her all-time low. So just remember that even if you weigh once a week, there's a good chance that some of those days you're going to be a lot lower, and other days you're going to be higher. Oh, I got to throw this in. Because women, if you are in perimenopause, and let's say you are somewhat in a semi-regular period, not exactly right, no regular, but for instance, typically around day 13, 14, and 15, that's when you have this huge estradiol spike. That is when a lot of times your weight's going to be higher because of all the estradiol. Then you have your FSH, TS, LH. But then right before your period, you start having a moderate rise in estradiol and also your progesterone. So all these hormones are kind of a little bit higher, which that's why your water weight's typically higher. Then the week of your period, a lot of that flatlines. So that's a good time where, so as you weigh, just know there are there's 2 or 3 days where it can be a good amount higher than other times where it can be
Yeah.
So.
And I know a lot of people don't want to weigh because it can be triggering, and I understand that. Just go by how you feel. Because if I had not gotten on the scale at all during this time, I would still know that I've lost a good amount of weight as far as like the 10 pounds go, because of how I feel, because of how my clothes fit, because of how I just overall just look and feel. So I just don't, I know so much of this can be triggering for so many people, and I don't want that. So I'm just telling you, you don't have to. But if you're someone who really likes to write things down and keep track, I'm going to tell you, I use an app called My Net Diary. It's free. I mean, you can pay for some of it, but I don't. And I will track everything I eat through there. You can scan barcodes. It's very easy. You can track your steps and your exercise, your weight. All of that can be inside this one app. And I found that to be massively helpful as well. And I just am going to continue on this track. I, for my personal goal, have 4 more pounds to lose. That's where I want to be, where I feel like I'm going to be, because I'm not going to be at the weight I was when we got married. It's just not, I don't want to be, because that means I've gained no muscle over the past 20 years. I don't want that to be the case, but I do feel like, 4 more pounds is going to be good. And I may have to change this as I get more into perimenopause, as I get older. And I'm open to that. I'm not set on this being the only thing that's going to work for me, but right now it's working for me. So I just felt like I needed to come on and share what's working for me, because there are so many videos and so many opinions. And I want you to take them all with a grain of salt, because your body is different from everybody else's on the planet. I just want this to be motivation to start trying things. And because one thing doesn't work doesn't mean something else is not going to work. And I see a lot of people get very disheartened when one thing that they think should work doesn't, and then they just quit altogether. I don't want that to be the case for anybody, because it took me literally 20 years to figure this out.
Yeah, and can you give them kind of an idea, let's say on a day you work out, just get maybe like what you might have for breakfast and your next meal and next
Yeah, I mean, and I can do a what I eat in a day. It's not like fancy by any means. Day of workout real quick. I have the same cottage cheese bowl that I have on the night before for breakfast. I might add a couple more berries on top to get a few more carbs, but that's my breakfast. Before I work out, I typically have some oats and a little bit more fruit with some kind of protein, like a turkey burger or a chicken burger or something like that. When I get done working out, I eat, and I've talked about them in a favorites video, the oats overnight packets, which I love. They come with 20 grams of protein. Sometimes I add protein powder into it, and I'll add some berries to that as well.
And some people give oats a bad
yes,
but I've dieted on these for years, even when I competed.
I mean, I think everything can get a bad rap.
Yeah, they work well for me.
So that's what I have after workout. And then for the next 2 meals, I try to lower it a little bit as far as carbs go. I love Greek yogurt. I love berries. That is the bulk, other than the oats, the bulk of where my carbs come from is berries. And so I'll have some, Greek yogurt with, what is that? Magic Spoon protein granola is flipping amazing. I love a Greek yogurt with just plain Greek yogurt with that and strawberries on top.
It's a low carb granola, isn't it?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it's like a very low carb.
It's so good. And then, maybe I'll just have some chicken. I love a chicken thigh. I'll have some chicken thighs with like some mixed vegetables or something at night. It just kind of varies, but I do try to taper my carbs off at the end of the day on my workout days.
Yeah.
It's not fancy. It's not exciting, but it works for me. And I like not having to think about what I'm going to eat every day. I'm a creature of habit when it comes to that.
And I want to say, there's a lot of you women out there now watching, and I know you're frustrated. You've tried everything. You're like, man, I'm doing everything they say on social media, but it's not working for me. And just to throw it out there, I do online coaching. If any of you out there, or if any of you are interested.
And no, he's not a woman in perimenopause, but yes, he sure lives with one.
Yeah, and she said I am a research geek.
Yes.
Again, I've been in fitness and nutrition for years, and it's just my passion. So I know that again, if you're trying something, and a lot of times, even with, let's say, if I'm working with a new client, it can take a few weeks to figure out what's best for them. Sometimes you get it right off the beginning, and you've got someone losing 2, 3, 4 pounds a week, which I don't like.
Which is not very
I don't like
healthy,
seeing anyone at first, maybe because it's, there's like
water weight.
Yeah, but then after that, I personally don't like more than 2 pounds a week. I really don't like more than a pound.
Well, I've been doing a pound a week. It averages out to a pound a week, which is fine with me.
Because that's a good safe. That way you're not losing muscle tissue. And again, we want to talk about your steps. You get around how many steps a day?
I average around 10,000 steps a day. I have a walking pad that I will do my computer work on, just kind of walking. I don't necessarily make sure I'm going in a certain heart rate zone or whatever. I'm just trying to move my body.
All right, so I just want to say one thing. So when you're doing this, and we're going to really get into this on an exercise video, but just to throw out just a 30,000 foot view of it, cardio is extremely important, and we'll talk about how to do that cardio. Also your weight training, because if you diet and if you do not work out, you will 100% of the time lose muscle tissue. You don't want to do that. So for every pound of muscle you lose, you may be happy that the scale's dropping, but you're dramatically lowering your metabolism, and it's going slow. So rather than, let's say, losing 10 pounds and having the same fast metabolism that you had when you started, if you lose all this muscle, it's dramatically slower. Then you're going to kill yourself trying to keep it off. Then you'll get tired of it, and it'll be a yo-yo effect. So weight training will ensure that you hold on to muscle tissue. You're not going to get big and bulky, but I just want to throw that out there. It's vitally important to work out as you're doing this.
Okay, so that's it. That is just a roundup of what I do in a very overview version. Probably still talked more than I wanted to talk, but let me know if you have any questions. Again, I'm not recommending this is something you do. I'm recommending that you be your own advocate and go out and figure out what works for you, no matter how long it takes, because you will find something that works for you. I promise. This is not a death sentence, perimenopause and menopause. I refuse to become a statistic. So you will find something that works for you. I'm hoping this one works for me a little bit longer. And that's that. So thank y'all so much for watching. I will see you in my next video. Thank you, Chad, for coming on. And we hope you go out and have a very blessed day.